The laughter echoed across the dusty roadside diner like a gunshot. It wasn't the harmless kind of laughter either. It was sharp, cruel, the kind that makes your chest tighten and your hands tremble even when you pretend you don't care. The teenage girl standing beside the row of rumbling motorcycles felt every single sound hit her like gravel against bare skin. She didn't flinch. She didn't look down. But her fingers curled tighter around the worn strap of her backpack. Her jacket was too big for her. Black leather, faded at the elbows, stitched at the seams, clearly made for someone broader, taller, older. On her small frame it looked like a costume. Something borrowed. Something she didn't deserve to wear. The bikers leaned against their chrome machines, engines ticking as they cooled, boots heavy on the gravel. They had gray in their beards and stories in their scars. To them, she looked like a child playing dress up. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet strength of people who refuse to give up, take a moment right now to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter because they remind us who we can choose to be. The girl's name was Lila Harper. She was 17 years old, 5'3", and carrying more weight on her shoulders than most grown men ever would. The jacket had once belonged to her father. It was the only thing of his she had left that still smelled faintly of engine oil and cedar soap. Her father had been a rider. Not the reckless kind, not the outlaw stereotype people imagined. He had been the kind who stopped for stranded drivers, who organized toy runs for children's hospitals, who believed that freedom wasn't about breaking rules but about living honestly. He had also died 3 months ago on a rain-slick highway when a delivery truck ran a red light. Since then, everything in Lila's life had felt like that intersection, unexpected, violent, and impossible to rewind. The diner parking lot sat on the edge of a small desert town where everyone knew everyone else's business. Word had spread quickly about her father's accident. What hadn't spread was how hard it had become afterward. Her mother worked double shifts at the nursing home, her eyes permanently rimmed with exhaustion. The mortgage notices came in thick white envelopes. The garage where her father had worked closed within weeks without him. Lila had come to the diner that day not for food but for courage. The bikers gathered there every second Saturday. They were part of a regional riding club called Iron Legacy. Her father had ridden with them years ago before settling down to raise a family. She remembered being 5 years old, sitting on his tank while he polished chrome, listening to him talk about loyalty like it was sacred. She walked toward them because she needed something only they could give. But when she reached the edge of their circle, the laughter started. Someone muttered that Halloween was months away. Another joked that she must have taken a wrong turn on her way to a costume party. One of them, a tall man with a braided beard, squinted at her sleeves that swallowed her hands and asked if she even knew how to ride. The words didn't break her. The tone almost did. Grief had already hollowed her out. Humiliation just echoed louder inside. She considered turning around. She imagined walking back home, closing her bedroom door, and pretending she had never tried. That would have been easier. Safer. But then the wind shifted. The leather collar of her jacket lifted slightly, and the sunlight hit the back panel. That was when the laughter stopped. There, stitched carefully and slightly uneven, was a large, embroidered patch. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't new. The edges were worn, threads frayed from years of wind. But it carried a symbol every one of those bikers recognized instantly, the old Iron Legacy insignia from 15 years ago, retired after the club restructured. Beneath it, in faded gold thread, was a road name. Grizzly. The tall man with the braided beard straightened. Another biker pushed off his motorcycle slowly. One of them took off his sunglasses. Grizzly had been Lila's father. He hadn't just ridden with them. He had helped found the chapter. The air in the parking lot shifted from ridicule to something heavier. Something respectful. Lila didn't speak right away. She let them look. Let them remember. Her voice, when it finally came, was steady but soft. She told them her father had always said Iron Legacy was family. She said she didn't come for pity. She didn't come for money. She came because she needed help restoring his old bike that sat half-finished in their garage. She had been trying to fix it alone with YouTube tutorials and borrowed tools, but the engine wouldn't turn over. She wanted to ride it in the memorial charity run he used to lead every summer. She wanted to finish what he started. Silence wrapped around the group like a blanket no one knew how to fold. Grizzly had been the one who showed up at 2 a.m. when someone broke down in the rain. He had been the one who talked younger members out of fights that could have ended in prison. He had been the steady one. The moral compass. And now his daughter stood before them, small but unshaken, wearing his jacket like armor. The braided man stepped closer. His name was Marcus, though most called him Steel. He had ridden beside Grizzly for nearly a decade. He remembered the night Lila was born because Grizzly had left a poker game mid-hand to race to the hospital, laughing like a man who had just won the lottery. Steel didn't laugh now. He told her quietly that the bike in question was a 1998 Harley Softail her father had been rebuilding from scrap. He said it wasn't an easy project. He said engines had personalities, and some didn't like strangers. Lila listened, chin high, as if absorbing a lesson. The other bikers exchanged glances. Shame flickered across a few faces. It was one thing to mock a stranger. It was another to mock the child of a brother. Steel finally nodded once and said they would come by the garage that evening. The transformation wasn't loud. There were no dramatic apologies. Just a shift in posture, in tone, in intention. Respect replaced ridicule without fanfare. That evening, 5 motorcycles rolled into Lila's quiet neighborhood. Curtains twitched. Neighbors whispered. But the riders dismounted gently, like guests entering sacred ground. The garage door creaked open to reveal the half-built Softail resting on a stand, parts organized in labeled boxes the way her father had left them. Lila had kept everything exactly as it was the day he died. Touching it felt like disturbing a memory. Steel walked around the bike slowly, running a hand over the tank. Another biker crouched near the engine block. They spoke in low, technical murmurs about carburetors and timing chains, about compression ratios and patience. Lila stood close, absorbing every word. The first night, they only assessed. The second night, they began to work. What started as assistants became routine. Every Saturday, the Iron Legacy riders returned. They brought tools she had never seen before. They brought pizza for her mother, who cried quietly the first time she saw them polishing chrome under the garage lights. They brought stories about Grizzly, how he once rode 3 hours out of his way to deliver a forgotten wedding ring, how he refused to let a rookie rider quit after his first fall. With every story, Lila's grief shifted shape. It hurt less like a wound and more like a flame she needed to carry forward. The biggest challenge wasn't mechanical. It was doubt. There were moments when the engine refused to cooperate, when bolts stripped, when progress reversed itself. There were nights Lila lay awake wondering if she was chasing a ghost. She was still a high school senior juggling homework, a part-time grocery job, and a mother on the edge of burnout. But each setback became a lesson instead of a defeat. Steel insisted she do the hardest parts herself. He guided her hands but never took over. When her knuckles bled from a slipped wrench, he handed her a rag and told her that scars were proof of effort. Weeks passed. The bike slowly came alive. The day they tried to start it for the first time, the entire club gathered in the driveway. Neighbors pretended to garden just to watch. Lila's hands shook as she turned the key. The engine coughed once, twice, then roared to life with a deep, throaty rumble that seemed to vibrate through the concrete and into her bones. She burst into tears before she could stop herself. The sound was more than mechanical success. It was memory reborn. It was proof that something broken could move again. The charity memorial ride arrived on a clear blue morning in late summer. Riders from neighboring towns lined up along Main Street. Chrome flashed in the sunlight. Engines idled like restrained thunder. Lila wore the same oversized jacket. It didn't look oversized anymore. This time, no one laughed. As she swung her leg over the restored Softail, Steel stood beside her, eyes shining. The Iron Legacy insignia gleamed across her back. But something else had been added beneath her father's road name. In fresh gold thread were 2 smaller words. Legacy Lives. The ride began slowly, a procession of remembrance. Lila felt the wind press against her chest, the engine's rhythm steady beneath her. She wasn't just riding a motorcycle. She was carrying forward a promise. People along the sidewalks clapped as the group passed. Some wiped tears. Many had known Grizzly. All could see what his daughter had accomplished. Halfway through the route, Lila realized something profound. The laughter from that first day at the diner no longer echoed in her memory. It had been replaced by the sound of an engine rebuilt by many hands and one determined heart. Near the end of this story, before we close this chapter, I want to ask you something special. If you've ever felt underestimated, if you've ever worn something that didn't seem to fit until you grew into it, comment the word legacy below. Let's fill this space with reminders that strength doesn't always look the way people expect. The ride ended at a children's hospital parking lot where the club donated funds in Grizzly's name. Lila removed her helmet, hair tangled by wind, eyes clear. She wasn't just someone's daughter anymore. She was a rider, a builder, a bridge between what was and what could be. Steele approached her quietly and told her that Iron Legacy had voted unanimously the night before. They wanted her as an official member once she turned 18. Not because of her father. Because she had earned it. Lila looked at the patch on her back and felt something settle inside her, a steady, unshakable sense of belonging. As the sun dipped low, casting gold across chrome and pavement, she understood that courage often begins in humiliation. That sometimes people laugh because they don't recognize history stitched into fabric. And that the bravest thing a person can do is step forward anyway. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can replace cruelty and that second chances can rebuild more than machines, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe for more stories that matter. Your engagement helps these messages reach farther than any motorcycle ever could. The laughter that once tried to shrink a teenage girl had faded into silence. In its place stood respect, unity, and a roaring engine carrying a legacy down an open road. And as Lila rode into the horizon with the club beside her, the patch on her jacket no longer shut people up. It made them stand up.